Marksmen are back in the solo lanes? Well, I guess playing bruisers was fun while it lasted. What is up, summoners? My name is Nathan Ng, and today we're going to be doing another meta update for all of you guys. Headed back into patch 10.11, it's time to get mentally prepared because there are a ton of changes headed our way. Riot has promised us that they buff bot laners because they felt too weak, and the buffs are live next patch. Thus, we're here once again to give you guys all the information that you need to get that slight edge. As always, we'll be covering every single role, and all this information is relevant to you no matter which one you play. But before we get started though, I want to mention that we have a Discord and subreddit that you guys might want to be a part of. Make sure to check it out in the description for the links to join them. Also, do me a favor and answer the question of the day. Why do you play League over other games? I personally like to play League over other games because it focuses heavily on your decision making. You don't need to have insane mechanics to be impactful in games, and there are a ton of different ways to shine, and that's just something I like about it. Let me know about your answers in the comments down below. Kicking off the video though, let's go ahead and talk about the top lane first. Bot lane buffs are hitting Summoner's Rift, but the players are trying to find excuses to play Marksman in the top lane. While Lucian's buff doesn't really help his early game, he's still a great example of this. He's already an oppressive lane bully, and this buff is only going to make him even stronger in the late game. Marksmen in the top lane are actually a great choice in this meta, and there are a ton of diversity that's been opened up in the bot lane as a result of support Senna. We're finally seeing tanks go down into the bottom lane instead, meaning that giving a solo lane to a safe, strong laner like Lucian is absolutely feasible and absolutely annoying. So I'm sorry you have to go up against this guy, but hey, ranged top laners, am I right? Other champions like Tristana, Vayne, and Kalista are also receiving scaling buffs, so they'll be even stronger in the top lane as well. We might even see some newer picks like Draven or Ezreal picked, so all you top laners out there, have fun. We're not entirely sure what champions are going to be coming out on top, but it's absolutely certain that players are going to try and abuse the melee champions by picking ranged ones. With that noted, it's going to be absolutely critical that players start purchasing Ninja Tabby and Doran's more often. These two items are essential to play against ranged marksmen in the top lane. Doran's Shield provides an incredible amount of sustain for only 450 gold. This item would allow you to stay in lane much more longer than you would otherwise be able to. By building it, you ensure that you can secure more farm, and if not, at least more experience so that you can continue to scale up. This item can definitely make its value back, considering that it will allow top laners to actually play the game. Without one, Juggernauts and Bruisers will be constantly shoved out of lane over and over again by the ranged top laners. Gradually, they get denied more and more minions and fall further and further behind. Don't be greedy. Build a Doran's Shield, pick up some farm early on, and then just sell the item later. Ninja Tabby speaks for itself. If you're constantly getting poked, it's a given that you'll need a recall at some point. An early Ninja Tabby purchase allows players to return to lane much more quickly after each recall. It also minimizes the amount of poke damage that you'll be taking. Obviously, you're going to be heavily benefiting from the armor and the passive, which reduces basic attack damage that you'll be receiving. The movement speed, however, will allow you to quickly position yourself to farm and then get out as fast as you can. Your opponents can only attack you if you stay in range, so having the movement speed advantage over them allows you to walk away and minimize the number of attacks that your opponents can tag you with. Zeal and the items it builds into receive some minor buffs as well. If you aren't aware, they're receiving 2% more movement speed. The extra movement speed is going to be extremely valuable on top laners like Tryndamere and Yasuo who build them as part of their core set of items. Expect both of these champions to be even stronger than before. I mean, we all know this, but being hunted down by Tryndamere or Yasuo is no fun at all, and that extra 2% movement speed makes it so they can kill you a little bit quicker. They're already so mobile and fast that it's only going to get worse, or, well, better if you're going to be playing them. Just like I got played in my last relationship. That's all I'm going to say, sorry. Gangplank is another candidate for these changes, but he's actually receiving a direct attack speed buff as well. For you Gangplank players, it means that you'll be wanting to give the Phantom Dancer a try for sure. It provides even more movement speed than before, and Gangplank scaling with attack speed is going to be much higher now. Switching out the steroids for a Phantom Dancer is definitely going to be a much more viable approach when you play more aggressively. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into the jungle next. Fiddlesticks, oh boy. It's definitely a new era for this guy, and I expect a lot of memes to soon drop. Instead of ridiculing him, however, they're going to be illustrating how broken Fiddlesticks is. Once again, Fiddlesticks is getting a buff again, and this time it's going to be focused more on the mind games that he can play on his opponents. If Fiddlesticks poses as an effigy, he'll now fear opponents, even if they see him beforehand. I've actually seen one of his effigies recall, it was super weird. However, now that Fiddlesticks can be rewarded for pretending to be one, it might be time to give each effigy a little love tap to make sure that it's not the real one. You might regret it otherwise. If you hate playing against them, I'd really suggest banning Fiddlesticks in your game's next patch. Alternatively, you can pick him up right now because, as we've been saying, he's pretty OP. So those Zeal buffs we mentioned before are definitely going to be helping a ton of champions, not just the bot lane marksman. We have jungle marksman too, you know? Kindred and Graves are going to be benefiting heavily from these changes. For Graves, an important part of his gameplay is to make sure that he stays in range of his opponents. He's got a shotgun, so it's paramount that he doesn't stray too far from his prey. Movement speed is extremely important on Graves because he doesn't have much range to work with. We're going to be expecting a lot of Graves players to rush Zeal after finishing Warrior just for the movement speed that it'll provide. Sitting on a Zeal without completing it will be a much more powerful decision than before, and our analysts think that Warrior and then Zeal into Black Cleaver will soon become the norm. While Graves is receiving some nerfs, these Zeal buffs should slightly mitigate them. Kindred, of course, is also benefiting from the Zeal buffs. Phantom Dancer is a pretty popular item on her, and who doesn't want some extra mobility? Kindred already has a ton of mobility, but it doesn't hurt her one bit if she just receives some more. Her ability to chase enemies down, but more importantly kite divers, is going to be going up next patch, so we would definitely expect her to become an even stronger pick than before. Next, let's run it down mid. Since the marksman will be getting a buff, our analysts expect that they'll be making their resurgence in the mid lane as well. Last season, we saw a ton of Lucian and Tristana mid picks, and since they've been buffed, we'll definitely see more. Will it remain meta? Who knows? And that'll definitely depend on how well they do. However, the fact that they've been buffed means that there will be more people playing them next patch, so don't be caught off guard if that Lucian in the enemy team locks in and ends up running it down mid instead. Plan accordingly and make sure you set your defensive rune to armor when necessary, and then once again, Door and Shield is your friend. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Zeal though. Champions who use items that have a Zeal in it are going to be stronger, and that's just how it works. Yasuo will be seeing more play in the mid lane, and some other good examples of mid lane champions that use Zeal are Twisted Fate and Corki. Don't forget about the rapid fire cannon Twisted Fate. He just received a buff on patch 10.10 as well, so his power will only continue to increase. Some extra movement speed is absolutely massive for Twisted Fate. He'll pick a card and then pick opponents off from across a different server with the massive range rapid fire cannon provides him. Corki though, may not be doing too hot, but hey, players are definitely going to give him a try, and that's for sure. I wouldn't worry too much though, but definitely expect to see him a little more often. As we just mentioned, Zeal gives you a little bit more movement speed, so you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram at Nathan_ing and also my TikTok by that same tag. As it stands, Hextech GLP is still proving to be a much more effective purchase than Ludens. The active effect and the lower price tag is just way too appealing, especially since the game seems to be favoring mid-game oriented team compositions right now. If you haven't made the switch yourself, you can at least try the Hextech GLP in a normal game. This item is so good and gives mid laners much more agency in general. You don't have crowd control? Well, I got some great news. You can build it, and it's impossible to miss with this item, trust me. Finally, make sure you don't undervalue Phase Rush. If you're playing an immobile mid laner like Orianna or Syndra especially, you're gonna need to make sure that you have this in your setup. It provides so much safety and helps you survive the early game ganks as well. With so many juggernauts in the meta right now, mobility is even more valuable than before. That fat Darius can only kill you if he catches you, so make sure that he doesn't. Run Phase Rush, run away, and don't run it down mid lane. You could save a life, most notably yours, by using it. Champions this Keystone is also popular on are Jace, Ryze, and Vladimir. Alright, that covers the mid lane, now let's go ahead and transition to the bottom lane. The highlight of this patch is the bot lane. We've already covered the Zeal changes, and now it's time to talk about the role that they impact the most. Most marksmen will now have even more movement speed. They'll be able to kite their opponents much more effectively as a result. Ultimately, this is a buff for players who have better mechanics. Higher ELO players will notice this buff much more significantly than lower ELO players who are still working on kiting in general. Marksmen will have an easier time dealing with bruisers as a result of these buffs, and I expect them to spike much more harder into the late game once they finish 1 or even 2 Zeal items. Marksmen are going to be even tankier than before. These buffs are huge, and all bot laners are going to have more impact on their games. The extra health is going to be making the difference in many situations. Whether or not you survive that Zed ult will determine if you can continue kiting and dealing extra damage. That extra 30 health early on might even mean that you survive a jungle gank with just 1 HP, meaning that they won't snowball and you don't have to deal with the fed Kha'Zix. The list goes on, but I'm sure that you guys understand the point. These buffs are a lot bigger than they appear. Diana was a good example of this. She lost 24 health and her win rate dropped almost a whole percentage. Don't take these buffs too lightly, as they're great for the early game, as well as the late game changes that favor bot lane marksmen in general. Now let's go ahead and talk about the champions. Kai'Sa got the double whammy buff. Her Q and R are going to be receiving buffs, and she's also included in the health buffs as well. Expect to see her much more often. These buffs will also make sure that she keeps Ezreal in check, as Ezreal's biggest strength is that he can turn any lane into a farm lane. Kai'Sa loves farm lanes, as she can practically outscale everyone. Except for maybe Vayne, that is. Vayne is an excellent counterpick to Kai'Sa, and she's set to receive some buffs late game as well. This sounds like a nightmare to deal with, but we'll just see where this goes. This should allow her to keep up with Kai'Sa's scaling and then continue to keep her in check at all stages of the game. Mobile marksman being popular is definitely going to do a number to melee champions, so the meta will likely shift very soon. Tristana and Lucian were excluded from the base health buffs and instead are receiving different changes to amp up their late games instead. Tristana will be a much more late game oriented champion as her base attack speed will be receiving a buff. Her scaling is going to be incredible, and considering that Zeal items are also receiving buffs, she's going to be feeling quite oppressive if the games go too long. Lucian's early game will remain relatively untouched as he doesn't build a Zeal item until much later on into the game, but at the very least he'll be feeling a lot better in the late game. His second shot will deal much more damage when it crits than before, so expect him to 2-tap squishies with ease. Finally, Kalista is also receiving her own buffs. Her W will cost no mana and the passive damage is also going up. High elo players are definitely going to abuse this as much as they can, as Kalista already provides an insane amount of utility. She's also receiving some buffs that will help her stand out. Both her damage and utility are going to be getting some love, which I'm not jealous about at all. I mean, who needs love, right? And she'll definitely terrorize the high elo very soon. And that covers the bottom lane. Alright, to wrap things up, we obviously need to talk about supports. With all these marksman buffs, it's definitely going to be easy to overlook supports. I personally believe that it's a super underrated role, but that topic is for a totally different discussion. In spite of marksman buffs, we believe that each lane is going to be determined more heavily by their supports. Most marksmen got a little bit tankier, and this change favors enchanters over engaged supports because a tankier marksman means that they'll have a slightly higher chance of surviving the all-ins. If they manage to survive the initial engage, enchanters are either able to heal them up or continue amping up their damage over the longer fights. When everyone is tankier, the winner is whoever has more sustain. You can play things slower and take your time. Nonetheless, marksmen are going to feel like they have a little more say in the laning phase, but we doubt that they'll overtake the pressure that supports can apply. With that being said, there are a couple of champions that we expect to see a little bit more. First of all, Lux is due a buff, which seems kind of fishy because I think she might be receiving a skin soon. Who knows? I wouldn't put it past Riot. She'll see more play in general, and that obviously means that we will be seeing her in the bottom lane. The slow on her E is receiving a massive change as it increases the duration of her E's slow when it's detonated. Her E is already a difficult ability to dodge, and getting hit by it is going to be even more punishing than before. And my goodness, that laugh? It's freaking annoying. While this buff is huge, we don't think that Lux will suddenly become OP. She's underperforming significantly as a support, and this buff should instead bring her up to a more playable level. As a result of this, however, expect to see her much more than before. Another champion that's set to receive buffs is Fiddlesticks, as we mentioned before. The buffs are going to be more focused on his mind games and trickery, so the supports will definitely be able to utilize this. Support players should also expect to have a lane versus Fiddlesticks much more next patch. He's definitely going to be an absolute monster of a champion, so it's a good idea to learn how to play against him or just learn how to ban him. And that's going to cover our 10.11 update for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you can stay updated with all the different kinds of content that we're going to be releasing. And if you guys didn't enjoy it, well, make sure to let me know as well, as I'm always trying to improve. And well, if you're telling me to change my jokes, that's something that I can't change. It's just who I am. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, my name is Nathan Ng, and we here at ProGuides really appreciate you. Until next time, good luck on the Rift, and well, happy grinding, and I'll see you guys in the comment section down below.